Glad Force Flex Max Strength now has bags with a 2 times stronger top for over-the-top strength. Like the kind of over-the-top strength you need when, Bill, breaks your bowl of buffalo chicken dip. Glad Force Flex Max Strength. Strong enough for all of life's garbage. 2 times stronger top versus 13-gallon Force Flex bags.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
FunBelt Podcast.
FunBelt Podcast.
FunBelt Podcast.
FunBelt Podcast.
It's just a great conference that is at a point right now where they're, I think, clearly the best group of 5 conference in the country.
The state of Sunbelt football is the strongest in our history.
And we got to continue to showcase what our league is about.
Welcome to this edition of the FunBelt Podcast. My name's Jeremy Harper with HalRazor.com, and with me, as always, is Dusty Thibodeau from the Warhawk Report and Ben Moore from Panther Talk. Hello, fellas. Welcome aboard. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Dusty and Ben won't be making it tonight, so it's just me, which is fine. Me is more than enough. So we're going to talk a little bit, not about football, even though we're in the middle of football season, and Arkansas State and Coastal Carolina are getting together on Thursday night for a AP Top 25 matchup in Jonesboro, which we're very excited about. No, we're going to talk a little bit about something that we're also very excited about, and that's Arkansas State Red Wolves basketball. With me on the show today is head coach of those Red Wolves, Mike Balado. Hey, thanks for joining us on the show, Mike. I know your time is at a premium. I know we've just begun the basketball season with practices starting. I saw online through social media that not only do you have a brand new floor, which is gorgeous, by the way, but you've got some brand new jerseys too. So the team's looking really sharp. And for a team that's pretty much intact from last year with a couple notable inclusions, can you tell me a little bit about Desi Sills and what he brings to the table?
Yeah. Well, first I'll say I'm really happy with the way the floor came out. It's beautiful. I love the Red Wolf silhouette in the background. We brought the old state logo back, which I think was pretty cool. And we have a bunch of that shirts and stuff with that logo on them. So I think that's awesome. Kind of a little bit of history back in the basketball arena, which is cool,
No, you really pleased the old timers with that. That's for sure. They are pumped.
Yeah, it's cool. And then, Tom Bowen, I give him all the credit for that. He's the one that designed it, the new administrative staff. And then the jerseys, man, I thought it was time to, I want to always keep kind of this clean look, and we just got a different kind of, look as far as what the uniform looks like, but it's really, really traditional. I think it's the best thing to do. Not too crazy, but it's Adidas, one of Adidas's best lines. So we're able to showcase that for them, and then the players look good. So what did Deion Sanders say? If you look good, you play good. If you play good, you feel good, or some to that effect. If you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good, right? So
if that's true, we're going to be undefeated because
right.
The unis look great. It's one of those things that it's usually when you launch some uniforms, it doesn't matter what happens. There's somebody grouses about it. No grousing. Everybody's just stoked for these uniforms. So
that's the best news I've heard all day. I haven't checked my email.
I can deliver that.
I was expecting some like, what can we get, this color, that color? But no, it's cool. So we're happy we're able to do that. And we will have a surprise during the season. We'll have an alternate set that will come out that we're going to wear as well. So we haven't broke that out yet, but I'm excited.
All right. Well, we'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, let's get to Desi. So, I appreciate you bringing him up. Obviously, he's been a gigantic addition to our program. In the last 4 months, it was something that, going in the background of Desi, and when I got here, he was already committed, to the other school when I took the job. And I saw him play in high school, obviously a ton. He had such a great career, and I was always drawn to him as a person. I thought he was always a great kid. I loved the way he played, hard worker, just tenacity on the court, great shooter. You know what I mean? Leadership qualities, all the right stuff that a college basketball player should have. And I followed him at Arkansas. And the only reason I did that was because number one, I was a fan of him, and number two, I'm a fan of college basketball, and no matter, who's playing, right? So when he would come back in the summer, a lot of times he'd find somewhere to play pickup and all that, and I'd let him come in and use our facilities. Like he's a homegrown kid. He can use a weight room. He can play pickup with our guys when he wanted to. We got to talking every once in a while just to see how he was doing. And when we got word when he went in the transfer portal, we obviously reached out right away. And we had good conversations. And, for one reason or another, he decided that Auburn was going to be the first pick after he left Arkansas, which was okay. I'm a Bruce Pearl. I respect him tremendously. He's got a great program, Coach Flanagan, who's there now, is a good friend. So I was happy. But I think during the time that he committed to the time that he was about to go to school, I think there was something that didn't go right with academics. I thought, he explained to me that he wanted to really get his degree. He wanted to really get in a certain area, and he didn't want to lose credits. And for some reason or another, Auburn didn't either have that track or didn't have enough credits. The bottom line was, when we got the call from Mom after he said he wasn't going, I didn't really care what the problem was at Auburn. I just wanted to make sure he knew that we still would love to have him. And he came by and we had a long talk on campus. It was probably, 3 or 4 hours. Talked about a lot of things and, showed him some things that I think would help him as far as his development as a player. And getting back to Desi Sills, I thought in high school and his first year at Arkansas, he was a really, really high-level scorer. That's something he really loved to do. And in his last 2 years at Arkansas, he wasn't really that. That wasn't his role, and I think he wanted to get back to that. And our system is great for him. We've had 3 all-conference guards in the last 4 years, right? We've had 3 that have gotten picked preseason, and that has a lot to do with the hard work those kids have put in, but also the system, the way it works, allows guards to be good, right? And when Desi saw that, it attracted him. We had a good relationship, so he decided to come. And when you add him to 97% of your scoring and 99% of your rebounding back, it makes you feel pretty good when you input somebody like that.
Well, I want to touch on that a little bit because there was something about the team I noticed last year that was really gelling. The year before last, it seemed like the Red Wolves had a lot of problems with big scoring droughts. That there'd be 8 minutes, 9 minute, 10-minute droughts that were at times almost comical. It's like, oh my God, we can't get a basket down. Right. Last year, that didn't seem to happen so much. And I think part of that might have been because Norchad was coming in there and he was a presence in the middle and was collecting those offensive rebounds and giving us those second chances. And then we had some guys that sort of start coming out from the outside making plays too, like Marquise Davis and God, who am I thinking of? Avery.
Malcolm
Farrington. Farrington and Avery is who I was thinking of. Those 2 guys could hit from the outside. So we were finding ways to score. We weren't always closing out games, but at least we were finding ways to score. Do you think Desi maybe is that missing piece, that last piece, that scoring piece that would prevent those scoring droughts entirely?
Yeah, well, he would definitely help. You made a great point. I think the year before last, we would miss some shots, and it's going to happen. Look, I never tell guys not to shoot. Certain guys can shoot more than others, right? It's always like that. But I never take away confidence from players. And what would happen 2 years ago was we'd miss, but our second chance points, we wouldn't be able to get them back. When you have a guy like Norchad Omier who is putting back misses, your droughts are a lot less, right? He's a tremendous. I think he averages like 2 offensive rebounds every 4 minutes or something. It's something crazy. And then you add guys off the bench. I think key role players are huge in those situations because when you sub guys in and out, somebody's got to step in and make a shot for you. You know what I mean? That's what they're in the game for. And I thought Malcolm and Avery, man, at times last year, they would came in and just saved us. I can remember one game, 2 particularly. At home against Lafayette, it was like a back and forth battle. They were missing, we were missing. They were missing, we were missing. I put Avery in, he scores 11 straight. Boom. Next thing you know, we're up 17 at half. That's one guy. And then Georgia Southern, it was another 2 3-point game, back and forth, back and forth. Then Malcolm bangs home 3 threes, and all of a sudden we're up 9. You know what I mean? So I think that's a big part of having those droughts. And then when you add a really veteran, high-level scorer like Desi, you never really feel bad about the ball being in any one of those three guards' hands when you talk about Eaton, Fields, or Seals, because one of those three is going to get your basket at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
And him playing, at the level he's played at, and his confidence and how hard he plays, I think that will definitely help with droughts, which I don't think we'll have this year.
Mike, you said something about role players, which is a great segue to what my next observation / question was going to be. Something else I noticed about last year's team was that I really felt like everybody knew their role last year and were executing on that role. And some years past, we didn't always see that. There seemed to be some confusion, or people didn't quite know what they were supposed to do. Last year, it seemed like anybody who came off the bench automatically knew their assignment and role, which made me excited for this year, because not only are they a year smarter and a year wiser, but they don't need to be taught what their new roles is. How do you feel about that aspect of the game coming into the season?
Yeah, that's an awesome observation, awesome question. 2 years ago, I thought, especially in February when we had real struggles, we had some guys with big egos, and I thought they were trying to do too much. And obviously you see the turnover in roster and why that was, and why they're not here anymore. Last year, we established roles early. We going into conference, non-conference for me in preseason practice and leading up to the first game is a lot for people to show what they can and can't do. And then you kind of put them in their role where say, hey, listen, this is what you're really going to do to help the team, And the great thing about every single one of those guys is none of them, not one, bucked on what we thought their role would be. As a matter of fact, they agreed with it. I'll give you a great example. Keon Wesley. Keon Wesley started 18, 19 games for us last year. If you look at him, he was probably a great glue to that starting five. Averaged 7 points, 5.5 rebounds, had double-double some games, flourished when he needed to, but his role was energy, rebounding, defense, and just not make mistakes, and that's what he did, And Marquise Davis is somebody that was hurt last year. It's going to be a huge, huge player for us this year. And when you look at the roles that those guys established last year, Avery and Malcolm were told to come in and help us in situations that we weren't well in the past, which was shooting. We shot, I think we were top 10 in the country last year in three-point shooting the entire year. And Malcolm and Avery and Christian Willis and Marquise Eaton were big reasons for that. They took good shots at good times, and they really work hard at their game. So when you have guys that star in their role, it really helps you because everybody knows what they're supposed to do. The great thing about our program is we develop people's weaknesses. So this year, you're going to see guys in the same role, but maybe it might be different guys. And, you got 6 roles. You might be shuffling guys around a little bit because other guys have improved parts of their game, and that's the big thing that we've done here is try to improve individual skill so they don't have weaknesses. So their role can evolve, or their role can stay where they're at, or continue to do what they do, but do it better.
Mike, that's an interesting that you bring that up, because I was going to ask you a little bit about Caleb Fields. He used to be a guy who's a perimeter guy, kind of a fast guy on the perimeter who'd crank up a 3-pointer when you needed him to. Didn't always get on the inside. Last year, I don't know what happened, but he bulked up and would just go inside and take those tough fouls. I think he led the team maybe in collecting fouls. But I mean, that guy, he just really got really tough. Was that one of those weaknesses that you saw as they said, hey, you gotta get inside more. We need a bigger inside presence.
Yeah, I think really, Caleb's outside game has improved, right? I think he settled too much and was really a facilitator his freshman year because he just came in as a freshman and he started every game for me. And he just knew that the guys around him, he tried to make sure he facilitated well as much as he could. But what I tried to talk him into throughout that year and then into last year was your speed has got to be an asset. You know what I mean? You're a Ferrari, and what you're doing is you're driving in second gear in traffic, which you should. But when traffic opens up, you got to hit fifth. You got to hit fifth gear. And when he does that, he's hard to keep in front. And then we worked on, our strength program, and our strength coaches with James Diaz last year and now Shane Lantain have done a wonderful job with him, keeping his body weight the same, but his body fat percentage down. And we've really worked on his control around the basket. I mean, Coach Young and Coach Cruz have done a phenomenal job in our skill development program of teaching him pace and trying to finish, short shots, not getting all the way to the basket and just throwing it up. Maybe finishing within 5 feet, within 4 feet, and taking hits and then being a better free throw shooter, and he's, the kid works extremely hard, like all the guys do, and he's improved in that area, no question.
So I was talking a little bit with Mike Scudero a couple weeks ago after a football game.
Right.
And we were talking a little bit about the team. And I had mentioned that the size hadn't, we're still not the tallest team. And I said that you had a comment about how Norchad and Antoine were good rebounders on their own. But Mike actually, Scudero made another point. He said in the Sun Belt, having a big guy sometimes is a detriment. That the Sun Belt is more of a speed game, more of a placement game. Do you agree with that? That maybe this is sort of antiquated thinking on my part, that you have to have the big tomato can in the middle?
Well, I think that it's always good if you can find a 6'9", 6'10" big that's skilled, right? I would never turn one away. Yeah. But I do agree with Coach Cutero on one point. The Sun Belt, when you look at we usually talk about the four men, the power forwards, right? And every power forward in our league is basically a 6'6" athlete. You look at Isaiah Smalls, and you look at the guys that Michael Flowers played the 4 for South Al at points last year. You know what I mean? You look at, App State's 4-man. You look at Georgia State. Georgia State has 2 traditional bigs, but they're pretty skilled. So, my biggest thing is, if you can guard a bigger guy, no matter what size he is, whether it's with strength, speed, right, or just defensive scheme, it negates not having a big guy. And when you look at Norchad Omier, he's 6'8", 245 with 5.2% body fat. You know what I mean? I mean, if he does his work early, he's pretty good at getting position and not being 6'8" hurting him so much, right? And then Antoine Jackson is a load in there, so he does a good job of getting positioning early, and he lays on guys and wears guys out a little bit. And then Keon and Marquise Davis are both 6'9". I mean, they're the same exact height. The issue is, Keon's 190. And Davis is 192, right? So they're not the biggest guys, but their length helps. They're quickers, and you can switch, and they can guard guards on the perimeter, and then they can rebound from the perimeter. So, we've kind of orchestrated it where we play very fast. Our tempo, points per possession, are extremely high. We got like 1.1 points per possession, and when you look at it, we want to get 100 offensive possessions a game, whether that's turnovers or missed baskets or transition. You can't have real slow guys doing that. They're gonna end up running 3-point line to 3-point line, right? Yeah. So we want to be able to get the big guys that can move, but again, not be a detriment when they're being so small. If you had a 6'6" center and you got to play against Okumba at Lafayette, right? Yeah. You're gonna have an issue. But I think when you have strength and scheme, I think you'll be okay. So I don't think our size is really much of an issue. Plus our guards are pretty physical as well. So I think we'll be okay.
So a couple months ago, when you were introducing Desi, I did ask you a question about who do we need to look out for this year that we didn't really see this year. And you mentioned one guy that kind of came out of nowhere for me. Lazar, I'm probably going to butcher his last name, Grbovic. I guess you're not messing it up. But one of the things you said was there was a language barrier that kind of prevented some of his growth. He worked on that. You worked on that, and you saw a lot of growth out of him in the last few months. Is he still on track to be putting some quality minutes up?
I do think so. Lazar is an extremely hard worker and plays very physical, which is great because really the only person that can guard Norchad in practice, is Lazar. When Twan and Norchad are playing together in practice, Lazar is really the only other guy that can guard him, and he does the best job, I think, in my opinion. He's very skilled. He's played at a high level overseas, so he kind of understands the game. I think language was something bad for him because he got here in September, and we threw him in the fire. He got a quarantine for 14 days, and he had to go back and quarantine.
Oh man!
I think he practiced like 3 days his first month. You know what I mean? So it took him a while to get going. This summer, he's really worked hard on his game and on his body. He's listening better, and he's doing a much better job of kind of understanding the system. And year 2, we've seen a huge growth in him over the summertime. And then the other one is, and I'll name another one for you. Marquise Davis is a phenomenal talent.
Right.
Phenomenal talent. He had such bad luck. He had COVID. He was quarantined, contact trace, and then was injured. He had a nagging ankle injury that never got better. And it just continued to bother him. He played limited minutes. but he had huge games for us down the stretch. Georgia Southern, he had a great game, played really well against Georgia State. So you can see him coming on. And I'll tell you what, he's been at times in the gym, which is hard to say, but he's been our best player at times in practice.
Oh, that's awesome.
When you throw guys like, when you have Desi and Eaton and Fields and Omier and guys like that, Willis, who's been out there for 5 years, and he's been your best player. I mean, that's pretty good. So I'm really excited about him. He's done a great job.
Yeah, that's exciting. I think it was exciting just to hear. One, it was good to see this, like I said, the team have this consistent ability to play. And they didn't always close out the games, but a lot of those guys were real young. Yeah. So, they needed that coaching, they needed that experience, and you could just see it happening. You just knew that they just needed some time. So that them all coming back, especially with Marquis coming back to bring that leadership, and then Desi to come back to bring that leadership. I mean, that's just gold right there. But another thing I have noticed about the team isn't necessarily with the players from last year. I know something about you. In years past, I used to look for it when I was watching the game. I called it Volcano Balado. That he would just get insane after a play or something and just tear stuff up and yell at the refs. I said, here it comes, Volcano Balado. Last year, I hardly saw the volcano. It was like it was dormant. Was there? And I suspect I think I know some of the reasons. But why were you so much calmer last year and perhaps this year than you were in the years past?
Well, you know what? That's the truth. I have grown, understood. I think the number one thing about last year is I knew at the beginning of the year that we had 8 new players, and with COVID, the last thing I needed for my team is to have more adversity. And I think when you as a coach stay calm and know going in that you have so many young guys, and knowing the times that we had to practice. I mean, we had 172 practices, 80 plus we were missing our entire, somebody on our team. And out of those 80, I think it was 86, 44 of those were missing 3 guys or more. I mean, I'm in the best shape. I was in the best shape of my life last year. I was out there running offense because we didn't have enough guys for practice. So I knew going in, it was going to be something that this team needed, somebody patient and somebody to teach them and not lose their mind. Because in the past, we've had guys that have been with me multiple years that I thought would stop making the same mistakes, and they continue to, and that's what drove me crazy. When these guys made mistakes, I knew it was purely because of mistakes, because they didn't know. The great thing was last year is the best team I've had. And number one, listening and doing. So you tell them something, they listen, and they actually try to do it. And then number 2, working off film. I mean, that last year's team, I've never had guys ask so many questions. Now, remember, last year was a little different. We played Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
So we couldn't practice Saturday before the game. We had to watch film the night before. And man, I'll tell you, you tell them something on film and you make them understand, and man, they made the adjustment just by watching it. And as a coach, to be honest with you, it makes it a lot easier for me to not lose my mind. And then at the end of the day, when you have, and this is the honest to God truth, when you continue to recruit better talent, it makes it easier. You know what I mean? When you recruit better talent and guys that listen on a consistent basis, it's really easier to coach. So no, I didn't have those time, and I haven't had it in practice. I really haven't. Everything has been more geared with the team running it than me getting upset. I've had Keese and Desi and Fields get on guys more than I have, just because they're holding each other accountable. And I guess in year 5, the growth of the program is where you wanted it to get anyway at the end of the day. And I feel like we're there. We just got to, like you said, go out and close games.
It sounds like your doctor's going to be applauding this, because that's probably good for the blood pressure, not to get angry so much. Let's just face it. Last season it just sucked. That game against UAPB, that was just a hard pill to swallow for a lot of fans. It took some time for the team to. Yeah, it probably took some time. And Mike Scudero said the same. He brought it up himself. He said starting off that way was just a bad way to start. And then you could see the team just not really lose a lot of heart. They just got to put back their shorts and start working on the game. It's kind of funny to me that you were talking about, these are young guys, they didn't know any better. And maybe that was the key. They didn't know any better. They're young guys. You're optimistic. You got some pretty good leadership on the front end to kind of get them through, but they're just sort of these kids that are getting onto the court, and they're like, well, UAPB, so what? So how important is it this year to come up with a quick start? Or is it even important? Is it more like, let's just get to conference play and continue our business?
Well, I'll say, let's talk about the UPB game, because that's a great example. We lost that game. We weren't playing well. We come back and tie the game, and Norchad Omier had 20 points and 18 rebounds that game. And he makes a free throw to tie the game. And then 3 seconds left. All we got to do is just have him heave up a half-court shot, and I believe with the momentum we had going, 5 more minutes, we win the game.
Uh-huh.
And what happens? A young man who's played hardly any organized basketball in his entire life picked up a basketball at age 17 and reaches in the backcourt trying to get a steal, and they call foul, which it was a foul. And if he had more experience, Norchad would have known, hey, listen, just make him shoot a 60-footer and we win it in overtime. But what does he try to do? He tries to make up, right, for the free throw that he missed to win the game. He only made one to tie the game. So he reaches in the backcourt, try to get a steal so he can be the hero, and he doesn't realize that you can be the hero 5 minutes later. And that all comes from experience. I mean, Norchad, the first time he watched himself on film when we're in a teaching setting was here. When I pulled him in my office and I pulled up our practice on our computer right after we got done with practice, I noticed that I'm trying to teach him. I'm looking at the screen, and then I look at him, and his face is like this. And I said, are you all right? He's like, Coach, how did you get that on the computer so fast? You know, he couldn't realize how he just got off the floor, and I'm literally showing him 10 minutes ago what he did, right?
Sorcery, dark magic.
Like, how do you do that? You know, so you got to understand it. You're talking about a young man who needed time to play, to make mistakes and fix mistakes in live play, you know, and the only way to teach him is to not say to him, hey, you can't do this, or you can't do that. Is like, watch yourself here. This is what you can't do, or this is what you need to do. And he learned, you know what I mean? You can see the growth that he had throughout the year. It's just, it took him understanding. So this year, and I'll tell you, and I'll tell everybody, you got to tell them, like, there are no excuses coming in and not knowing. I don't want to hear that. If you play a game as best you can and you get beat, that's one thing. That's why you play the game. You're going to play a good team. Look, our non-conference schedule, we'll probably have 2 ranked teams on the schedule with Texas Tech and Illinois. Morehead State was 19-1 in their league last year. Went to the NCAA tournament. We got them. Air Force has Coach Scott back, which was there in the early 2000s, which were very good. We got them. You know what I mean? So we're not playing a cupcake schedule. And then Pine Bluff is going to be better. They got a new coach. They got new players. They got new transfers. So our non-conference schedule was that way for a reason, because we had so many guys returning. They know what they need to do and not to, and the mistakes need to be minimal. So to answer your question, am I looking for a quick start every year? Right. Am I focused on that? No. The only thing I'm focused on right now is practice on Friday. That's it. And we're going to take it day by day and game by game. And our motto is 1-0. We got to go 1-0 every day, 1-0 every day, 1-0 every day. And let's stack up the wins and worry about that later. You know, and I think with this team, they like that mentality because they want to get better every day, and we're going to take one game at a time. And with the veteranship and the people that we have coming back and the experience, I suspect we have less mistakes than we did last year at the beginning, and more like what we had at the end of the year, winning 7 out of the last 10 games as well.
Yeah, that was a good run. That was an exciting basketball. It was entertaining basketball because sometimes you can have a winning team and they're just boring as hell. This is an exciting team. I think part of it is the chemistry with the guys. They just seem to have very good chemistry. I remember when I first met you, you had just been hired, and we were talking about your past, and you were talking a little bit about your Hispanic heritage and your Cuban heritage, and you were saying, well, yeah, my way with the Hispanic language with Spanish, I'll be able to recruit people that we wouldn't normally recruit. And you know what I did? You may not have seen it, but I kind of rolled my eyes. I said, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, ended up with one of the biggest recruits that we've had in a very long time. How did you end up getting Norchad? I mean, what was that process? Well, how did you even know he existed?
Well, so relationships for me are very big. I think that as a coach, when you recruit players from certain programs, and even the years that you don't, you got to continue to make sure that you reach out to those coaches and let them know that you're still thinking about him and want to know, even though you don't have a player for him, and being honest with him, in the recruiting process and just growing through the business. He played at the way he kind of got here was his mentor, Wesley Savory, was actually Nicaraguan that played college basketball in the States, Division II, then went over and played pro, and has been very involved in growing the sport in the country. And in Bluefields, Nicaragua, which is one of the small coastal villages, word travels. They call him, hey, this is kid here who just started playing. He's got a wonderful gift. You got to come watch him play. And this guy went on his own reconnaissance and watched him play and said, wow, he needs to leave the country and get somewhere where that's better basketball, better teaching, better competition, that kind of deal. So all of a sudden, one of the guys that he played for at Miami, who was my mentor growing up, who I've recruited guys in the past with all my career, who helped me get in the business, Art Alvarez, who's had 100 players go to Division I. We're very close. And he always has a camp for Hispanic kids. It's what he does. He has a camp every summer, and kids from all over the world, Colombia, Chile, Argentina, Nicaragua, Costa Rica. I mean, they're from everywhere. 2 weeks, 300 kids, and he gives them a chance to get some exposure and then get a good evaluation of who they are. Well, it took about 2 days, and Art was like, he coaches a school down there. He says, you're not going anywhere. You're staying right here because I think you have a talent to play Division I. And he immediately called me and said, Mike, nobody knows about him. He's a special player. He's going to get looked at by a lot of schools, but I want you to get the first inside track because I think you being Hispanic can really help him. I think him understanding and me speaking the language with him in his first year gave him an opportunity to play a lot, but also gave him an opportunity to learn quicker. There was times last year in the huddle when I was like, all right, everybody, listen, we're running 4 down. You're going to go screen here. And I say, Norchad, tu tienes que venir para acá. I say, and I didn't have to worry about like translating it. I just said it in English, said it in Spanish, and then boom, and I think for him, it was an asset, because at times when he didn't understand something, he would ask me in Spanish and I could tell him quicker. It was just easier for him to comprehend. And I think his growth that way helped. And, Art called me. I trusted him because he has so many guys that he's coached that have played. And then his mentor, Wesley, was such an advocate for his character, talking about his play and his character. And when I watched him play against IMG, he had 41 points and 17 rebounds. And then I said, that's really, really impressive. But then it hit me. He's only played basketball organized for 3 years. 3 years. He picked up a basketball at 16, 17 years old. What's his ceiling? You know what I mean? So I knew he was going to be good. Now, freshman of the year, maybe, because I didn't know how everybody else stacked up. Yeah. First team all league. I mean, wow. I mean, that's something that he's grown. He's done that. That's all the hard work he's put in. So, that was a story. I think it's just through relationships and being honest with people and trying to respect them, and them respect you, and just getting that lucky phone call. Recruiting is about talent, seeking talent, knowing character, and luck.
And maybe having a few friends along the way that can point you to the right guys. Right?
People say that, hey, Donovan Mitchell wasn't even ranked in the top 100, right? And Coach Patino's son gets a call from somebody up at Brewster and says, hey, there's a kid you need to look at. We go look at him, and now he's making $188 million. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's luck sometimes. It really is. But if you don't respect the people that are telling you that information, or if you just dismiss it, a lot of kids fall through the cracks, and we try not to do that. We try to follow up on every kid, and 80% of the time, they're probably not good enough. But if that one time I say, he's only played basketball for 3 years. He's really 6'7" and a half. He's only, he's from Nicaragua. Like, I don't know. That would have been a really big mistake.
Well, congratulations for dunking on my eye roll there, because I was skeptical. I was like, okay, he's from Nicaragua. That's great. That's a great story. Is he going to be great on the court? And he has been. It's been a joy to watch, and it's been a pleasure to watch. We had Scott Cross of Troy, UTA guy for a long time, come over to Troy, and we're talking to him on Monday about Troy, of course, but we also talked about the Sun Belt. who he thought was going to be good. And to my surprise, he thought everybody was going to be good. And he made a good point about all the super seniors are coming back. So there's all this great experience. What's your thought on the league right now? And what do you think the season's going to be like?
Yeah, I think, look, I have a lot of respect for all the coaches and the programs in the league. You know, we recruit against a lot of them a lot. And there are some in this league that negative recruit. I've never said anything negative about another coach or another program because they're all good. They really are. We have wonderful coaches and high level players. The Sun Belt is very, very underrated for basketball. They need to do a better job. The league needs to do a better job of promoting the players in this league. It's embarrassing and it's ridiculous. And I'll say it and I'll say it again. And I don't care what they think because you have guys in this league that are high level players. You have a lot of guys that have transferred out and gone to high level programs and been good. You have guys that are still in this league, like Norchad Omier, who is a marketing guy's dream. Yeah. He's the first Nicaraguan player to ever sign a Division I scholarship. He's a first team all league, freshman of the year, and the Sun Belt has put nothing out on him over the summertime. Even what he did in FIBA, it's an embarrassment. It really is. It's like embarrassing how bad that is. But anyway, I'm going to say that every coach in this league is good because the Sun Belt has always been an older league. It's always been a transfer league. You always got guys coming in, whether it's JUCO or fifth-year guys. So every year you got new players. So, like, I'll give you an example. I think we're going to be really good. Of course, we got a lot of guys back. I'm a little biased because I see them every day. Yeah. Georgia State's got everybody back. They went to the Sun Belt Championship. App State won it, went on a run, got everybody back. Lafayette got 4 new transfers, plus they have Akuma back, and they got 2 starters back. Then you got South Alabama, Coastal Carolina, who lost the player of the year, but got a St. John's transfer and a couple other guys. Then you have South Al, who got 7 transfers, all high major transfers, who, whether good or bad, where they were before, they were there for a reason. So they got to be talented. Scott is a phenomenal coach. In my opinion, top 3 in the league. And then he's had now 3 years now to build his personnel. You know, Cote Richard has all their top 4 scorers back at Monroe. I mean, you know, Texas State has everybody back, and they won the league.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, who do you pick? Like, I don't know. I really don't. I think that if you ask me, you know, top 5 when in no particular order, you got to include Georgia State. You got to include us. You have to include Texas State. You have to include Lafayette, and you got to include App State because they won it. It's my opinion. And then in the outside 6 at 5.5, you know, punching the guys up, you have South Al, who's very talented. And then you got Scott, who's got a good team at Troy. Yeah. And you got Coastal, who's, you know, always competitive. So I don't know.
Always competitive and a bit of a mystery. It's like Coastal's so far away when it comes to basketball.
I know.
That you don't know who they are until you finally make that trip and you see them and you go, oh my God, these guys have some. And if they've got, I forget the name of his, I suddenly forget the name of the coach, but I know he's an Auburn legend.
Cliff Ellis.
Yeah. Been around forever. So
my favorite coach in the league, by the way.
Oh, really? Cliff Ellis. Okay.
Not even close. I was sitting next to him because it's like Arkansas State and then like Coastal. We did it in alphabetical order. I mean, I always sit next to him in the spring meetings, and he had the best one-liners and he had the best advice of all time. You know what I mean? And learning from a guy like that was so much fun. I have so much respect for him. And I do all the coaches. I really do. But Coach Ellis has been around for so long. You want to pick the old guy's brains. You know what I mean? There's a reason why he's been coaching for 30-some years.
Did he give you some kind of advice that you can share, or is that something that's going to be a top secret for the season?
Well, you know what he told me? He said, Mike, the game changes, you change. That's all I got to tell you.
Is that your Ellis impersonation?
Yeah, I have a much better one, but he's his coach. Mike, the game changes, you change. So let's go play some golf. You know what I mean? I love him. He's great.
Well, I do enjoy the impersonation. You are now the Rich Little of Sunbelt, which actually ages me quite considerably. So I kind of wish now that I'd even mentioned that. But Mike, I want to express my gratitude for you coming onto the show. We're trying to interview as many Sunbelt basketball coaches as we can. We want to have you on the show because we're very excited about the team. We think the Sunbelt season's actually going to be very good. something that's going to be some must-see TV and hopefully must-watch at the court. Let's hope that we don't have any COVIDs causing any problems this year. Mike, is there any parting shot that you want to give to us, or are we good?
No, I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity. I love talking about my team, and I really love talking about the league. You know, I love the coaches. I think they're high level. I think the programs are high level, and to be quite honest with you, they need to get better exposure. And
really, I agree 100%. It's not just in basketball; it's all sports across. There's for some reason the Sun Belt's just a little bit too modest about its stars and about its programs. And we've talked to Commissioner Gill, and he's a dynamic guy, and I kind of wish that he would use some of that charisma.
Oh yeah, Coach, listen, Keith is great. You know, he's a good leader, and he's got a good administrative team around him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking that I hope that they realize that with the star power that the league has top to bottom, because you look at this league, every game, I don't care where you go, it's a tough game, you know, and I think the respect the league deserves, forget the individual teams or individual coaches, it's the league as a whole really, really needs to get more exposure in basketball. You know what I mean? Because we got to start being that league that people are talking about outside of the, you know, Power 5 or the Power 6 or whatever you want to call them now. You know, it needs to be something that we get talked about. So, but I listen, thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate it, man. And I'm working hard every day for the school. You know, I'm very proud of being the head coach here, and I just want to continue to make strides in the right direction and bring a championship here like we've always talked about.
Arkansas State head coach Mike Balado, thanks for being on the show, and we look forward to the season. And we also look forward to having you back on the show when you're a top tier or a top seeded program entering the Sun Belt tournament.
See ya. Appreciate you, man. Have a good day.
You too, Mike.
This is a mini meditation guided by Bombas. Repeat after me. I'm comfy. I'm cozy. I have 0 blisters on my toes. And that's because I wear Bombas, the softest socks, underwear, and t-shirts that give back. One purchased equals one donated. Now go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.